What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the vlog. As always, I'm Dookie Betts. In this video, we're headed up to Canada and we're gonna go play some 2-5 over at Playground in the Montreal area. If you guys are new here, my name's Dookie Betts, and this summer I'm trying to make $10,000 in 400 hours playing live low-stakes poker this summer. Currently, we've completed about 161 hours, and we've made about $3,100, so that's good for about 19 bucks an hour. We got off to a pretty slow start in the challenge overall, but last month, in the month of June, we've climbed back very nicely, and we made about $4,500 in that month, so certainly a nice rebound for us there. As mentioned earlier, we're taking the nearly 6-hour drive up to Canada. My friends and I decided to book an Airbnb for the weekend and go grind some cash games over at Playground. Playground's a super cool spot. I've always wanted to go there. I've played in Vegas, I've played in Texas, I've played in Florida, and obviously I've played in New England. Playground has always been one of those bucket list items for me, so I'm super excited that I got to cross that one off the list and share a bunch of good content from over there with you guys. If you guys enjoy the video and you want to see more, make sure to go down below, drop a like, drop a sub. Really helps me out a ton. Let's hop into the video and let's turn some sand into gold. Hopping into the session we go. We begin our Friday afternoon playing 1-3 while we wait for a seat at the 2-5 tables. We hop in for the max and get ready to battle in what would be a very eventful session. Our first hand of the day, we pick up King 10 of spades under the gun 7-handed. We open the action to $10 and see the hijack as well as the cutoff call. Our friend Gage, a fellow American, finds the 3-bet to $50 from the small blind, and it folds back over to me. In general, I wouldn't advise calling 3-bets with hands like King 10 suited, because you're just going to be dominated by better King X a lot of the time here. But Gage is kind of a lunatic, and he can definitely be 3-betting light, especially with some dead money from the hijack and the cutoff. That being said, we flick in 40 bucks more, both the flatters fold, and we go heads up in position to the flop. We get a monster flop of 9-8-6 two-tone with 2 spades here. We flop a flush draw, gut shot, and 2 overs to the board. On this board, I expect Gage to be doing a lot of checking here, given it's not a very favorable board for him as the 3-better, so when he checks it over to us, we're not very surprised. Flopping a monster draw here, I definitely want to be putting money in the middle. Gage is about $200 behind, and we've got about 120 in the middle. If I bet small here, I can set up a nice clean turn jam. So with that being said, we fire out for $40, going about 1/3 pot. It gets back over to Gage now, and after a bit of thought, he rips his stack in the middle for $198. It never feels great calling off with only king high, but with the amount of equity we have here, I think we have a super straightforward call. I flick in the money, and we're headed to a run out with about 500 Canadian dollars in the middle. The run out comes all black cards, but not the correct suit. Gage rolls over ace-9 of diamonds, and he's going to pull in this pot. Gage is a good dude and a good friend of mine, so I don't mind giving him some of my chips here. It's just unfortunate that we had to drive 350 miles to do so. Also, for what it's worth, we were an equity favorite. You, Gage. After this hand, we add on for another $200 and go a while without much action. About an hour later, we get moved to 2-5. The cap for this game is $1,000, so we add on for another 500 bucks. We sit with the full 1,000, and we're now in the day for $1,200. After collecting some reads at our new table, we finally play our first hand at around 2 o'clock. We see the under the gun player open to $15, and it folds over to us. We peel ace-10 offsuit and find the 3-bet on the button to $55. This is a bit too loose, especially against an under the gun open, but whatever. Much to our surprise, we see the small blind player cold call, which invites the under the gun player to come along as well. 3 ways to a flop with 170 in the middle. We get queen jack 3 two-tone with 2 hearts. Both players quickly check it over to us, and we're gonna take a stab here. I think the small blind player is super capped. Additionally, if the under the gun player had a hand like pocket queens or pocket jacks, he would definitely be 4-betting pre-flop in attempts to get heads up. We fire for 55 bucks. The small blind folds fairly fast, and then the under the gun player snap calls. I think if this player had a hand like ace queen, queen jack, or anything top of range, he would at least consider a raise on this fairly wet flop. The turn comes a brick 7 of spades, and once again under the gun player checks. Definitely an interesting spot now. We can either wave our white flag and give up here, or we can fire a second barrel and likely triple it off on non-heart rivers. Given our very large ego, as well as the information we gathered pre-flop, as well as on the flop, we choose the latter. We fire barrel number 2 for $175, and this player very quickly folds. I'm glad that we didn't have to triple this one off here, because in all honesty, I think this hand is super spewy on our end. Nonetheless, glad we got the job done and took down a nice pot here. About an orbit or so later, we play our next hand. Playing 7-handed in the low jack, it folds to us. We peel the beautiful ladies and open things up to 20 bucks. We see the cutoff call, and then the button finds the 3-bet to $120. This player's been at the table for a while now, and so far he's been pretty active. I've seen him 3-bet a good deal of the time and show down hands that probably shouldn't be 3-bet. When it folds back over to us, we put in the 4-bet to $325, which is a very committal size against his effective stack. This player thinks for no more than 5 seconds and then announces call and pushes all of his chips in the middle. He's only got about $110 behind, so before the flop can even come, I just put the rest of my chips in the middle and we get a beautiful queen high flop. I have top side.
Oh, top set. Top. Nice sound.
Thank you.
Unless we get the bad beat here. Bang, bang.
We're going to hold against an unknown hand here, and we're certainly running very well so far on the session. 3 hands later, we pick up some more heat. We're now playing 6-handed, and we see the low jack open to $20 and the high jack calls. It folds to me in the small blind, and we peel pocket aces here. We put in the mandatory 3-bet to $125, going a bit bigger than I probably should, but I'm a greedy man looking to punish some Canadians. This prompts the low jack to fold, but surprisingly the high jack flatter puts in the call. I think if this player ever had a super strong hand, he would likely be 3-betting himself, so when he double flats, I think he has a middling pocket pair or some sort of suited Broadway. With $275 in the middle, we get an uncomfortable flop of 6 high with 2 hearts. I think checking is totally fine, but if he has a hand like pocket 7s through jacks, he's never folding this flop. He's also never folding any flush draws, so we decide to fire here for $150. This player thinks for a bit and then flicks in the call. The turn comes the 4 of clubs. In hindsight, I'm not really sure how much 5x this player is going to have in a 3-bet pot here, so for that reason, I would like to be barreling this turn card. However, in game, we decide to check. This player quickly checks back, and we see the jack of hearts roll off on the river. We decide to fire an itty-bitty block bet here for $100 into $575. This player now quickly moves all in for just under $700. This player fits the description of an OMC very much, and I'm having a very hard time finding bluffs. I think it's fairly likely that he made a flush with the jack of hearts on the river, so after a bit of thinking, I decide to let this one go and find a better spot. Overall, I'm not a huge fan of how I played this hand. I think I should probably be looking to check raise the flop and then jam the turn like I said. As played, I think checking the turn and allowing this player to realize his equity is pretty bad overall. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this hand down below in the comments, and let's move on to the next hand of the session. About an orbit later, we get another chance to play a premium hand. We now have a full ring, and we see the +1 player limp for 5 bucks. I peel pocket kings and open the action to $30 over the limp. It folds back to +1, he sticks in the call, so we're headed heads up to the flop. We get a flop of 8-6-5 rainbow board, and this player checks it over to us. This certainly isn't the best flop for our range, so I decide to check this one back and get a bit funky. Unfortunately, the turn rolls off the 9 of spades, making any 7 a straight. This player now leads for $25, and we flick in the call. The river comes the 9 of diamonds, pairing the board. This player fires again for 50 bucks into about 120. As played, we very much under-repped our hand. Additionally, this player is a younger gentleman who I think is probably capable of bluffing. For this $50 price, I don't think we should be folding here. We flick in the 50 bucks, and we win against Queen Jack offsuit for a very nice bluff attempt. Being a bit results oriented here, I think we won the max given that we induced a bluff, but once again, let me know what you guys think down below. That brings us to hand number 6 of the vlog, which comes about 10 minutes later. I miss my blinds because the Tim Hortons I ate earlier was not sitting well. We post our $5, and when it folds to us, we add 15 bucks on top with black pocket 10s. It folds to the cutoff, who's a very aggressive young French-Canadian man who finds the 3-bet to $75. It folds back over to us here, playing about $800 effective with this player. I think just calling with our 10s is probably the best option. 4-betting certainly a thing as well here. We flick in the call and we're headed heads up to the flop. We get an above average flop of Queen Queen 10. We flop a boat and are absolutely loving life. We begin the action with a check in flow over to this player, and he quickly fires out for $55, going about 1/3 pot. As mentioned, this player is a total maniac, so I think just calling here and keeping all of his bluffs in is totally the way to go. We flick in the call. The turn rolls off the ace of clubs. We now check once again, and this player fires a second barrel for 115 bucks into about 270. I really don't advise slow playing thick value in low stakes poker, and honestly I rarely do it, but against this specific player, I think this is a great opportunity. Once again, we just call and continue to set the trap. The river comes the 7 of hearts, and this changes absolutely nothing. We check for a third time, praying this player is going to find the third barrel, and after a long tank, this player comes with the massive size of $525, leaving him about 120 behind. I think when this player chooses this slight overbet size on the river and leaves himself very little behind, it would actually be a mistake to jam given he's repping bigger boats. Obviously, if we jam for his remaining chips, we get called by these bigger boats that beat us, and all of his bluffs just snap fold. That being said, we snap call, and he says you're good. Not wanting to be standoffish in a foreign country, we fast roll our boat and take it down. Feels super nice to pull in this $1,500 pot, and it looks like our slow play paid off big time here. We've now got about $2,000 in our stack, and we're absolutely sun running at Playground. About 30 minutes later, the sun run continues when we pick up pocket aces for the second time today. We open to $15 from the cutoff, and everyone folds. That was no fun. Yeah, so a bit anticlimactic there. That's alright though, because 3 hands later, we pick up red pocket jacks in middle position. The sun run has been crazy. We open to 15 bucks, and we see the low jack, as well as the button player call. We get a queen high flop, and begin the action with the check. It's gonna check over to the button player, who comes with 30 bucks into about 50. I think it's a bit premature to fold to 1 bet, so we flick it in, and the low jack folds. We get the 10 of hearts on the turn, and once again, check. This button player has been super snug the entire session, and I haven't really seen him get out of line or table a bluff thus far. When he begins cutting out betting chips on the turn here, I fold before he can even put money over the line. When he sees that we snap folded, he makes a slight smirk of disgust, and I think this confirms our suspicions that we were just beat here. This next hand is kind of boring, but it's also pretty funny. It folds to me in the hijack, and I open to $15 with queen jack offsuit, both the small blind and the big blind call. The flop comes terrible for our hand and for our range, so when the blinds check it over to me, I check back. The turn is even worse for my hand and range, so when it checks through again, I check for a second time, and the river comes an ace, which should be good for my range. When both players check for a third time, it seems like nobody really wants anything to do with this hand, so I think I can probably just take this pot down by sneezing on it. I fire for $30, and the small blind snap folds, but then the big blind unexpectedly snap calls. You win.
I know.
Our final hand of the session comes at around 4 p.m. It folds to us in the cutoff, and we raise to $15 with king 9 of diamonds. The button flicks in the call, and we go heads up to the flop here. We get a very nice flop of king 9 deuce rainbow board. Playing out of position, we start with a check, and the button quickly stabs for $10. Obviously, we have thick value here, and we want to begin growing this pot. We find the check raise to $45, and this player ponders for a bit, and eventually finds the 3-bet on the flop here to 120 bucks. We're totally loving life. We flick in the call and head to the turn. The turn is lovely in the form of 9 of spades, pretty much sealing the deal on this hand. As played, button should never have pocket kings, and if he flopped a set of deuces, we're now ahead. When he 3-bets us on the flop in position, I think he's always going to have a strong hand, and I think there's a very good chance we get to play for stacks with the effective nuts here. We check and flow over to him, and he keeps his foot on the gas, coming with 110 into about 260. We started the hand about 1k effective with this player, so if I take back the betting lead here, we can set up a nicely sized shove on the river. Like I said earlier, I really don't think this player has many bluffs in his range when he 3-bets the flop, so for that reason, we find the all-powerful double check raise to $275. If this player calls, we'll have about 800 in the middle and 600 or so behind. Back over to this player now, and he actually quickly folds. In all honesty, I was really surprised that he folded here given how strong he looked on the flop. I guess he was just goofing off on the flop, or he made some sort of incredible fold with a hand like deuce-deuce, but I honestly doubt that. Nonetheless, we take down this pot, and more chips are coming our way. About 30 minutes after that king 9 hand, we rack up our chips and head out. All in all, on the session, we are in for $1,200, out for $1,930. This is good for a profit of about 730 Canadian dollars and about 4.5 hours of work. In US dollars, this is about 530 bucks. And yeah, guys, that's gonna wrap up today's video. Overall, we had a pretty good session over at Playground. In next week's video, we'll also be playing at Playground. We have one more session to cover from our weekend trip over there. And then after that, we'll be back in beautiful New England for more local poker vlogs. If you guys made it to this point in the video, thank you so much. It really helps me out a ton. If you guys enjoy the content and you want to see more, make sure to go down below, drop a like, drop a sub, do all that fun stuff. And that's all I really got, guys. I'll see you next week for more poker content. And until then, I'm Dookie Betts.